right. Welcome back to our Coaching Network podcast. We are very pleased to be joined today as we get things rolling again with University of Idaho head coach Jason Eck. Jason, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really excited to have you on. You're a busy man anytime it's football season, but you're coming off of your program's coming off of a win against an FBS foe. You have another FBS road trip coming up this week. You were a playoff team a year ago. You're just heading into your third game of year two. How would you assess what you've been able to do in your first 10 or so games as Idaho head coach?
It's been a good start. I think that was a great step for us making the playoffs last year. And, I think that caused us to kind of raise the bar on our goals. And, I know from my time at South Dakota State, your seeding in the playoffs is so critical. And, really our goal now is to be one of those seeded teams, one of those top 8 teams. And we had to raise the level. And again, getting the FBS win certainly helps your cause. But we got a greater challenge this week. Playing Cal out of the Pac-12, and we're definitely going to have to take a big step this week and improve to have a chance to win that game.
Speaking of raising the levels, I think you're maybe up to number 5 in some of the FCS national rankings. That's quite a heady turnaround. I want to ask, in this day and age, it's arguably tougher than ever or more fleeting than ever to turn around a program because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, because of some of those obstacles. What do you attribute to being able to so quickly reestablish the Idaho program and have this kind of success?
Well, I think we really focused on relationships, and it started with hiring a great staff. I love our staff, and again, we've had great continuity. 9 of our 10 full-time assistants returned this year, and the nice thing about being the head coach is, sometimes when you're an assistant coach, there might be a guy on the staff who you got to have a good working relationship with, but really, maybe isn't your kind of guy or something. And I was able to get all guys who were my kind of guys, and guys who I thought had a good positive energy, because I thought if they were guys who I liked to really spend time with, our players would as well. And we really focused a lot on that. We have non-football meetings, which is something I borrowed from Coach Stig when I worked for him at South Dakota State, where we focus away from X's and O's, just focus on relationships and getting to know other players outside of your position group, get to know other coaches outside of your position coach. And I think that really helped. I think that helped us become more resilient, handle adversity better. And then, in the second year, again, I think we've just tried to, raise our standards, raise the bar and improve the program. But I attribute a lot to the people and the outstanding staff I have.
I'm fascinated by you alluding there to the non-football meetings that you have in your staff, and I live in South Bend, so I was talking to some of the Notre Dame coaches this week, and their coaches on Tuesday night have an offensive coaching staff family meeting where all their wives and kids come up there. You can't fake that sort of authenticity. Kids are smart. Kids know. So when you have those meetings like that with your coaches, not only what does it do for the culture of your coaching staff, what does it do for the culture of your program? What kind of message do you think that sends?
Well, I think it's easy in college football. It's a lot different than high school where you have probably still a lot of guys playing both ways. And, I've been on, coaching staffs or teams where you had a big, separation between the offense and the defense. And, I think that's not the best model. I think when you can have a great working relationship and the players feed off that, and they know that, we're together on this, and you're well connected to guys outside of your position group on the other side of the ball. It helps you with adversity. It helps you pull together when things aren't going right. And that's probably been, one of my favorite things about our team so far in the first, year and 2 games is that I think we respond well when things don't go well in adversity. And a lot of times that's a critical response, because usually when you get a job after a guy gets let go, the things haven't been going well. And, it can be tough to turn out of that cycle. It can be, as soon as something goes bad, well, here we go again. And I think our team has really done a good job. And it really started last year at the beginning of the year. I thought we were very resilient and competitive in our FBS games last year. We weren't able to win either of those games, but our kids fought to the end and showed a lot of heart.
You reference it there, and we're joined here on our Coaching News Network podcast by Idaho head coach Jason Eck. You reference resiliency. You reference having kind of your guys on staff, the people that you vibe with. How would you describe that? How would you describe a successful culture? And what do you attribute that resiliency to?
Like I said, I think you generally have to take time to get to know each other, and again, I think you got to work at relationships. And I think that's something that says I've grown as a person. I probably when I was younger, I thought relationships just happened naturally and they were easy. And, now I realize you really got to work on it. You got to invest, you got to put deliberate time into doing those. And if you don't work to get outside your circle, sometimes, you can just have the O linemen are only hanging out with the O linemen and the DBs are only hanging out with the DBs. And I think when you do that, you really can draw on the wealth of differences. And, a college football team is such a great, melting pot of, blacks, whites, Hispanics, Polynesians, kids from inner cities, kids from suburbs, kids from small towns. And when you really take time to get to know each other better, I think those connections can be stronger. But I think it's something you have to be deliberate to work at. And, we talk a lot about, just responding to situations. You can't, there's so much that happens in a football game or in life that you can't control, but you can always control that response. And, again, I think we've definitely grown and being able to have, championship level responses to things we can't control.
You referenced the melting pot there, which will lead me into a two-pronged question here. One of that being not much melting pot in one regard when you've got your son on the team. How cool is that? What kind of neat experience is that? But then the flip side of that is from a recruiting standpoint, you've recruited the Dakotas, you've recruited at Minnesota. How do you approach recruiting at Idaho now, especially, again, as we've already alluded to, the day and era of the mass transfer portal and NIL sort of being this nebulous entity all over the sport?
Okay, a lot to unpack there. Number one, it's been tremendous, having my son play for us, and he's been doing a great job. I think it's probably really special for my wife because I think coaches' wives are kind of saints, and my wife is a saint just for all the moves we've had in our career. And I think it'd be really hard on her if I was coaching on a sideline somewhere and my son was playing someplace else on a Saturday. I think she'd be torn that way. So that's really a neat deal for our family, and I'm proud of him. I think he definitely he came in as an early enrollee last spring. And, like I said, I was just happy even in the first spring. I think he earned the respect of his teammates because I think that was, probably his thing is he doesn't want people thinking, or the teammates probably number one thinking that he's only on the team because his dad's the coach. So he did a great job with that. In the transfer portal, there's two things I think. One, your players got to have a great experience playing at your school. I mean, it's got to be a lot of fun to play at the University of Idaho and a good experience. For as many guys as you can on the roster. Again, I think there's some healthy, transfer portal stuff too, because sometimes, if a guy's, stuck behind good players, we have two really good quarterbacks. Our starter, Giovanni McCoy, was the national freshman of the year, and then Jack Lane's our a really good, solid backup who started for us in the Idaho State game and kind of clinched our playoff berth last year. So, like last year, our third string quarterback, who was a very good player, but, just saw himself and he was behind those other two guys. He was able to find an opportunity, transfer to Bryant College. And, I'm not sure exactly where he sits on the depth chart, but probably a better opportunity for him. But you want your guys to have a great experience. You got to make sure you're really doing a good job with your players of feeling that you're continuing to make them better. I think the scouting is so thorough right now. With NFL teams, you look at the Monday Night Football game, undrafted free agent from FCS, from Stephen F. Austin returns the game-winning punt return. They'll find you. So, again, I don't think it's something, maybe in the old days you had to be more at the premier programs, but probably not even then. But so if you develop and do well, that's great. But I think the experience you're having, the feeling that you're getting the players better. And then the last part I'd say is we like to recruit as locally as we can. We really are, our main focus of our recruiting areas right now is the Northwest, Idaho, Washington, Oregon. We like going down to Arizona. I think that's a good niche. There's no group of five programs in that state. There's only one FCS program. And then California, just because there's so many people, and that's easy flights for us. But I think that's something that helped at South Dakota State with keeping a lot of those guys who, if they went into the portal, would have been Power 5 players. It's nicer when they have a great connection to the area and their family are coming to every game and can drive to the game. So I think that's another thing. I think is the more locally you can recruit, I think the better in the transfer portal era.
You reference your time at South Dakota State, a fabulous program, another program that's had some FCS versus FBS success. So I'm wondering on the heels of this win against Nevada, maybe how many of your FCS brethren have you heard from over the past few days with some congratulations and just what it does? Because the people at Football Scoop know that I'm a huge FCS guy. You've got 64 scholarships instead of 85. You've got some other limitations. I think some of the greatest coaches in our sport are at the FCS level. And that's not because you're visiting with me. I say that on podcasts regularly. So it's a closer knit brotherhood, I think. And I just wonder what you've heard from those people this week.
Well, I exchanged some messages with Coach Hill at Southern Illinois, after they had a big win, and with Coach Conklin over at Fordham, because they both had Conlin. They both had big wins as well. So I think there's a sense of pride, and you want the FCS to do well. I'm always rooting for our conference, or really any team in FCS in those FBS games. And again, I think it's that pride of trying to get more respect on the national scope of that. Hey, this is really high level football, and especially between the group of five, the line between the group of five and FCS is very, very, very slim. I think obviously you start to look at the SEC and Big Ten gaps. Those get quite a bit bigger, and probably in reality the group of five is closer to us than they are to the those power conferences now. But it's good football, a lot of good coaches. Again, I've always been proud of guys. Whether it's Jim Tressel or Paul Johnson, who've done well in FCS and then have taken advantage of their opportunities. I'm rooting for Troy Taylor, who's in our conference last year at the Big Sky, to do well there at Stanford. So I think it's good football. I think it's, I think FCS is nice because it's still, I think, more in line with probably what college sports were created to be. Obviously things change and things evolve, and you don't see the spread out across the country conferences. Like you do, you have those beautiful regional rivalries, which I think are really, special for people out here in our area to play the Montana schools and play Eastern Washington. There's a neat deal when, you're coaching against guys that you're seeing all the time in the recruiting trail. Players are playing against guys they played in high school. I think there's something that's neat and special about that.
Yeah, I contend that the regional rivalries are very much a part of the fabric of college athletics. You referenced it. 25 years ago, you were playing at the absolute highest level of college football at the University of Wisconsin. You guys won a Big Ten championship, went to the Rose Bowl, won a Rose Bowl. How much, first of all, did that lay the foundation for who you are as a man and a coach today? And then how would you describe how dramatically the sport has changed in a relatively short period of time?
It has. And, I look at probably my it wasn't always great going through it, but I was an assistant from 1999 to 2021. And in those, whatever that is, 22, 23 years, I worked for 12 different head coaches. So I got to see a lot of ways to do things. But I studied psychology at Wisconsin, and they talk in psychology about primacy and recency effect. And I think that's surely probably the two guys who had the biggest impact on me were Coach Alvarez, who I played for, then I was a graduate assistant for, and then Coach Stiglmeyer, who I was most recently with at South Dakota State. And Barry, I think, had a lot of things of how he built Wisconsin were things that I tried to model coming in here to a program, because he took a program in Wisconsin that had been downtrodden for a long time and really got them on track, where they've been on track kind of ever since he got there. And I kind of saw that same vision of what we could be here at Idaho. But it certainly changed. I mean, back then it was the dream in the Big Ten was to play in the Rose Bowl. There was no national championship game. That was I think the BCS just was starting at the end of my career, and then when I was a GA. But that was everything. It was the Big Ten champion versus the Pac-12 champion, and or Pac-10 back then in the Rose Bowl, and that was the that was your goal. But certainly there's been a lot of evolution. There was no so many rules have changed. There was no 4-game redshirt rule. There was no NIL. I'm glad the NCAA has opened up some things like, now you can feed your walk-ons unlimited. Where I remember when I was in college, when I was a walk-on before I earned a scholarship, you'd have some of the guys who were on scholarship, sneak me out a tray of food because you couldn't go to training table if you didn't pay for it back when you were back in those days. So there's been evolution, and I think that's things are always going to evolve in any field and anything. And I think that's, just kind of our jobs as coaches to keep evolving with things and try to stay on top of the curve.
You referenced it earlier, the stops along your career, the grind that you've had to get to this point where you're now a head coach at a program like Idaho, coming off of a playoff berth. And you referenced working for 12 different head coaches along the way. You've got to have some fascinating moving stories, I would think, with that many stops and those diverse of places. So as we dive a little bit more away from the football field, give me a couple of your best moving stories, if you don't mind, and how much of a saint is your wife, Kimberly.
My wife Kimberly is a saint. There's a lot of stories that we can like laugh at now, but weren't really funny at the time. We moved to Western Illinois from Hampton University, and it was one of the rare times, just because of the timing, where I picked out a place without her seeing it. And then the movers get there, and it was an older house. And just the way it was set up, we had a bunch of furniture that they could not get in, like would not fit up the stairs and things. So we had to have a late change and get out of that lease that we were going to rent that place and find another place and move all of our, our stuff into storage. And that one sticks out. I mean, we had another time where we were trying to move it ourselves with a U-Haul, and we had it all packed, but then there wasn't enough room in the truck. We had to get a second U-Haul, to do that. So there's been a number of those ones that weren't really fun to go through at the time, but now you kind of sit back and laugh.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you surely have a great U-Haul story along the way. I know when I grew up in East Tennessee, went to the University of Tennessee. I know when my wife and I moved from the Knoxville area to South Bend, I had to drive a, 26 or 32-foot U-Haul, and it was packed so full there was not even any room for anyone except me in the cab of the truck. So I can relate to some of that U-Haul pain.
No question. Moving's not fun. So that's part of the business, though. And again, my wife has done a great job of embracing this lifestyle and making the best out of it.
You guys share 5 children. How much have these moves sort of helped shape them and give them a very unique worldview experience, because they've grown along the way in some different places and seen some phenomenal things?
Yeah, I think it's a little different with each kid and how they react to it. I grew up in a coaching family. My father was a college basketball coach for about 25 years, and I do think for myself it helped me. Probably some of my siblings who were a little bit more on the shy side. Those moves were tougher, but you get exposed to different things. I think like our experience at Hampton University was great, just to be involved in more of a place where we were in the minority, where so many times as a white family, you're in the majority situation. I think that was a good experience. Like for my, it was really my older sons who probably saw that the most, but a good experience for them, to be in that and to grow. And I do think, there was good quotes I remember reading this summer about, the coach at Notre Dame talking about how really, you can't have work-life balance, but you can blend it. And I think that is neat to see. We love to have, coaches have their kids or wives come to practice. And I think that, really that showing that example of being a good father and a good husband is so valuable for your players, because even at the highest levels, I mean, majority of your players are not going to go on just to be, football be their career. It's going to be, as much as you can help them be better men and better fathers and better husbands, better members of society. That's outstanding. So I think that it's important to blend that as much as you can and have them around, have them at some team meals. We have a wives trip. We also have a kids trip. We go to Eastern Washington. We're gonna have the kids, come up in the bus with us to the game and get to experience that. And I think those are some neat things. That's another thing I stole from Coach Stiglmeyer that he had that was really special. Bringing my older sons on road trips. That's where I was there.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize the kids trip. I'm fairly familiar with a lot of programs doing the wives trip. You mentioned stealing that from Coach Stig. That's got to be awesome for all of the coaches and the staff members' kids. But I would think that there's almost equal or more value in the message that it sends to your players. Can you speak to that?
No question, because I just think what you do is more valuable than what you say. And I think as much as you can model, the behaviors you want in your players, the more you're going to get that, rather than just telling them what to do. And again, that's what I'm proud of our staff. I think we have just a tremendous coaching staff here who does a great job mentoring those guys and helping them. And that's something we I talk to parents about when we're recruiting them. We want to be there and be a great support system to help your son come in as a young man and leave as a grown man, and help show them the way, not just tell them the way, but show them the way.
Wrapping up here, the last couple of questions, a couple of relatively easy ones, but unique ones, I hope. And that would be, if you weren't a football coach, what would you be doing right now? And maybe what's something that people don't know about you that might be a surprise?
Well, my mother, after, seeing the coaching lifestyle, she really encouraged me not to go into coaching. She was pushing me to go to law school, and I was actually signed up for the LSAT, at college. They paid the money, and then they got the money. I didn't even take the test. They ended up saying, "Nah, this is not what I want to do. I know I want to coach." but probably something in business. I got my master's degree in business, and I think really the studying I did at Wisconsin, psychology as an undergrad, and then I studied management and human resources at Wisconsin for my master's degree when I was a grad assistant. Even though I haven't gone into psychology as a field or business as a field, I think I use probably what I learned there on a daily basis, especially as a head coach now, with the college program being just so large with all your support staffs and, 110 players and all that. So, probably something in business. I still like, the team atmosphere. I think I'd want to have something where I kind of had a team no matter what, because I like that camaraderie that you have, both with the staff and the players. And, I probably would want to be in some kind of business setting where I got to work with a team environment.
You still got to have some attorney lawyer skills there to be a head football coach. Your courtroom's just 100 yards now, or recruiting these school hallways, but you're still in a courtroom, so to speak.
Yeah, and as far as what people don't know about me, my wife is she's kind of a wonder on social media. So it's funny, sometimes I talk to a friend I haven't talked to in a while, and they're all caught up. I'm trying to give them an update of my life, and you're like, yeah, I saw that stuff on Facebook. I know what's going on with your life and all that. So there's not too many secrets. I probably I don't have too many hobbies. I do enjoy horse racing. I'm hoping to get back to the Kentucky Derby. I haven't been since 2018. A lot of times I like going with other coaches because I think that's kind of a good event in May when it's a little quieter cycle after spring ball ends. I got a chance to go out to Del Mar this summer for the first time in California, and I really enjoyed that track there. But that's probably one of my few hobbies I have outside of football and football and family.
Jealous of those Derby attendances. That's a bucket list item that I'm still working on. I've gotten to go to the Masters a few times, but the Derby is one of the last bucket list items for me. Wrapping it up here, you are a member of the Andy Talley Bone Marrow Foundation Coaches Council. I saw in the Idaho on your bio that you got more than 1,000 people registered for that drive. Why is that so important to you?
Well, we were blessed to get involved with that. I really first became familiar with it, I think, back when I was coaching at Winona State in Minnesota, and I joined the registry on my own just because I thought, I first heard about it. Hey, there's people dying of cancer. They don't have matches in your family. You think of usually something like that being a match in your family. So I joined on my own, and then it just so happened in 2016, my first year at South Dakota State, we played Villanova in the playoffs. Knocked them out, which was, Coach Talley, such a great career there, national champion, Hall of Famer, his last game. And Coach Talley's so selfish or selfless that after the game, he wasn't feeling sorry for his career being over. He got Coach Stig to say, hey, I want you to do a drive for us. And so Coach Stig brought that up in the staff meeting the next week that, hey, I promised Coach Talley we're going to do this drive. Who wants to head it up? We need a kind of liaison to take the lead on it. And I volunteered. I was in the registry already. I thought it was a very worthwhile cause. And, that's been a neat thing, for me, getting to know Coach Talley better over the last few years. And I'm on his coaches council. So we get together a couple times a year. I always see him at the convention and probably one other time. And I've learned a lot from him as well. I never got the chance to work with him, but I like bouncing things off and hearing stories that he has from being a head coach for 30 plus years. And just such a great event that gets guys thinking about things that are bigger than themselves, things that are more important than football, and giving back. And our players, that actually was one of the first things that I really encourage like a new head coach to do one of these drives, because our players did such a good job that first spring when I took over. That was probably one of the first canaries in the coal mine that told me, these guys are really buying in and trying to do what we're asking them to do. So if we can if they're going to buy in and do what we ask them to do, as long as we do a good job as coaches and are asking them to do the right things, we're going to have success, because the players really did a great job with that. And it's neat. We'll have a player, come up to me in the summer. I got a call. I might be the match. We haven't had one yet that's directly to our team, but at South Dakota State we had guys like our athletic director Justin Sells' son donated and saved someone's life that way. There was a former player here, Mike Beaudry, who I didn't get to coach. He played at Idaho before, but he had been at West Florida when they did a drive and then transferred here, and then he actually got to make a donation, and now he's in coaching there back at West Florida. So I just think it's an outstanding thing. It's a great thing. They need diversity and they need young people, and what's a better place than at a college campus and on a college football team where there is that melting pot of diversity to try to attract people to join the registry, and very, very passionate about that. Proud of what our team has done with that.
Really appreciate you sharing your insight there, and love the fact that you're having such an impact on the field and off the field there, and in the community and across the country through your platform. Coach, thank you so very much for joining us this time. I promise that we wouldn't keep you too long and that we wouldn't only talk football. I also appreciate that Twitter follow that you gave. I don't even remember when. We'd barely spoken before this podcast, but this has been awesome. 2-0 start. You've got a big one this week against Cal. Look forward to maybe visiting with you again down the line, because I think you've got big things in store this season.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate your exposure for our program.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Take care.